This is a full guide on how to master Whistlestop Summit in Mario Kart World. In this video, I will teach you the brand new ending shortcut method that you can do without using an item, which is 100% consistent and crucial for winning races. I will also teach you how to do every method of the beginning rail sequence, including the fast method, which is consistent and gets an item box. And I will teach you how to do the gap jump shortcut by just using a charge jump. As this is a full track guide, we will also be talking a bit about feather shortcuts, mushroom shortcuts, and item strategy. Whistlestop Summit is one of the most difficult and technical tracks in the game, so after practicing what you learn in this guide, you will be able to consistently dominate by building massive leads. So let's get started. Let's start with the ending shortcut, as this is the most important shortcut on the track. If you are in a top position with no mushrooms, then you should usually go for this path. This is a very difficult shortcut that requires lots of precise button timings, but it saves a lot of time. And because it uses rails, you can even throw items backwards on the rails to ensure that other players cannot successfully take the shortcut. Now, I've already made a video on this shortcut in the past, but that was a different method that was not consistent, because your exact bounce off the green sign is essentially luck-based. However, Frel recently discovered another way to get onto the shortcut rail, which skips the sign entirely. Right after this discovery, I spent several days experimenting, trying to create a method that is consistent. I'd like to also thank my YouTube members, especially Iridium and Yerk, for helping with testing. And today, I present to you my 100% consistent method for the Whistlestop Summit ending shortcut. First, we have the approach. You just need to land on the bottom rail with a short trick boost however you want. The fastest way is to trick from the train tracks onto the yellow rail, then trick forward onto the right train track, then do a right trick here. This will land you on the bottom rail. But if you want an easier way to get there, you can instead go on the yellow rail and trick forward near the end of it, but not at the very tip. And one more variation that is useful to know is to go to the side and grab an item box, then charge jump on. Once you're on this rail, then the hard part begins. Okay, for this section, I'm going to list out everything you need to do. But before you try this, I am truthfully warning you that this is one of the most difficult button sequences you will ever do in this game. So trust me, do not try to do this all at once. Take it one step at a time and learn as you go. So let's begin. Once you're on the rail, hold left in preparation for a left trick. Now look between the second and third yellow line. You want to trick around the halfway point or slightly earlier than that. For the next part, you have to be very quick. Immediately after you trick, smash the stick towards the right and release R and release A. The only thing you should be doing on your controller right now is pushing the stick to the right. Once your vehicle is centered on the white line in the ground, start holding B. Once you attach to the wall, reset the stick to neutral. So right now, you should only be holding B and not touching anything else on the controller. Ride the wall for a while and watch for the final yellow line on the rail. You want to get close enough to it so that your trick off the wall will make you almost touch that yellow line. Remember, keep your stick in neutral. Then press R to do a trick off the wall, and immediately after pressing R, shake the controller once as shown on screen to get a shake trick. This will make you immediately trick on the rail. That double trick combination will send you flying very high. You can now touch the stick again and steer yourself to land cleanly on the green rail. Before landing on the rail, release B and start holding A again. Once you land on the rail, hold right and shake the controller to trick onto the right wall. Keep holding right and wait until just before you reach the final white line on the wall. Trick off the wall and do another right trick in the air. Once you land on the final rail, you've made it. Just left trick after the rail straightens out. Wow, wasn't that easy? Okay, that was a lot. So now here is a written guide on screen so you have it all in one place, and here is another shorter cheat sheet that doesn't actually teach you how to do it. Instead, it's just the order of what controller inputs you should be doing. This way you don't confuse the steps with each other. If any step in this list has multiple actions, then that means to do them simultaneously. I'll wait for you to take a screenshot. Now let's look at common mistakes for the ending shortcut. The most common mistake is when you miss the shake trick on the rail, so you don't get the launch into the air. You might think you're shake tricking incorrectly, but this is probably not the issue. As long as you're shake tricking at the same time or immediately after pressing R, then you are shake tricking correctly. Most likely, the actual issue is you are attaching too high to the previous wall, causing you to fly above the rail instead of landing on the rail. So here's how to fix it. It all comes down to the left trick off this rail. You are either tricking too late here, or you're not smashing the stick to the right fast enough. Pay attention to these, and that will help you land low on the wall, which makes you able to get the shake trick. Another mistake you'll run into is that the launch takes you too far, causing you to miss the green rail and fail the shortcut. If this happens, then you did not hold B early enough. It's common to accidentally start holding B once you attach to the wall, but that's too late, and you won't slow down enough. Hold B when your character aligns with the white line on the ground, and don't release B until you get to the green rail. Another mistake is when your shake trick sends you to the right, instead of giving you the upward launch. A lot of players instinctively hold right when trying to trick off the wall, but you don't have to do that. You should keep the stick in neutral as you trick off because you want a neutral trick on the next rail. And sometimes, even if you do everything correctly, you will just fly too far. But this can be saved. Simply go to the right side and trick from the ledge to the wall, then ride the wall for a while before jumping off and doing right tricks. This is pretty much the only thing that can happen where you need to react quickly and adapt. And it mostly happens when you have a lot of coins. Remember, this shortcut method does not guarantee you always have the same speed, but it does guarantee that no matter what speed you get, you will always be able to make the shortcut. After you spend a lot of time with the shortcut, you will naturally find several ways that you think it could be improved. So let's talk about those. On the final wall, you don't have to go behind the sign like I said. You could instead trick off pretty early and still make it onto the rail, just like the old method, and this also is a bit faster. However, the timing is quite precise and takes some skill. I almost always make this, but I do fail it about once every 15 tries. And because going behind the sign is practically unfailable, I don't think it's worth it to jump off the wall early. Another variation of this shortcut is if you hold right as you shake trick and you immediately hold left, you can actually still make the shortcut by immediately snapping to the green rail. And this is actually a bit faster because you press B for less time. At one point, I thought this was going to be the best method, as it's also very consistent. In fact, this is Iridium's main method of doing the shortcut. However, it seems to be more sensitive to your coin count and more sensitive to the exact timing that you do all of your inputs, which means that slight inaccuracies can often lead to an entire failure, whereas my method can tolerate a wider range of inaccuracy while still succeeding. In other words, I think this method can be really consistent, it's just a lot harder, especially when under the pressure of a real race. And I will address a few other things. Of course, it is possible to not hold B during any of this, and the world record does a variation just like that. While this will be faster, and technically an easier sequence of inputs to do, you are not going to reach a 100% success rate going for this, as you need to be incredibly accurate with your timings. And finally, you can add these tricks to the ending rail to save a tiny fraction of a second, but you risk falling off and losing 4 seconds and losing your items. So again, it's just not worth the risk. This shortcut is really difficult to learn, but it ends up being very consistent. I taught TWD98, or Troy, how to do this method, and here's what he has to say.
Hi, I'm Troy, or TWD98, and if there's one thing you need to know about me, it's that I really love shortcuts. So when Shortcat told me there's a near 100% success method with the whistle stop ending cut, I'm not gonna lie, I thought he was exaggerating at first, but if you wanna get good at this track, you have to learn this. In just the first 10 minutes of our call, I watched him make it over 40 times in a row, and the first half hour trying it with the new method, I couldn't even make it once. But what's so great about this cut is once you understand the input order and timings, you can make it consistently. With only 2 hours of practice, I went from making it 40% of the time with the old method to over 80%. The biggest mental block for me with this cut, honestly, was just having to unlearn all my bad habits. Having to hold B, let go of A, not touch the joystick while on the brick wall was so difficult for me, but now the muscle memory is just rewriting itself. The key for me was just to learn the cut and steps and not focus on getting it all at once. It's gonna sound insignificant, but one of the best pieces of advice he gave me was to hold left on the wire for the entire duration before tricking, since it made me not have to think about having to trick plus left and smash right followed by holding B in such a short amount of time, since this was causing me to mess up the input sequence due to my prior muscle memory with the old version. After that simple change, it started to click and I could finally focus on the ending part, which was much easier. And yeah, this completely changes the track for me in a positive way, because the old version of the shortcut felt like a glitch shortcut and the new version feels like a skill shortcut, even though it's the same shortcut. See what I did there?
I've also taught other players, including a lot of my YouTube members who are reporting great results with it, and also Troy and Rod, and top players JP Givener and Liam. This shortcut method is really good, so give it a shot and be patient as you improve. Also, here's a video of me doing the shortcut 20 times in a row at every coin count, because I thought that might be fun. Next, let's look at the start of the track. What I'm about to teach you here is much easier than the ending shortcut, but it's really just as important, as knowing the fastest path will save you a significant amount of time compared to the slower paths. Whenever you can, you should take the train tracks on the left. This path is significantly faster, and even the simplest path over here is faster than using 2 mushrooms through the grass patches on the main road. The main road really is just that much slower, with the grass shortcuts being very small. There are multiple paths you can take on the left side, so we'll start with the easiest fast path. Go on the left train track, then left trick onto the yellow rail. Stay on the yellow rail to build up an orange mini turbo and trick at this point halfway through this segment of rail that is next to the item boxes. This puts you back on the train tracks and you can do extra tricks here. Always try to incorporate right tricks whenever possible, as this makes you go much faster than staying on the rail. This path is easy and very fast, but you will not get an item box. So I use this when I don't need an item and want to play it really safe, because you really can't mess this one up. If you do want an item box, there's actually a path that is equally fast. It's just a bit more difficult. Get on the yellow rail early, then trick onto the wall and back for some speed boosts. Shortly after passing this thick part, trick forward and hold left to land on the rail. This gets you an item, and the rest is the same as before and the same speed as the previous path. If you are confident with this one, then you should definitely choose this path over the previous one. But since these are rails, taking the fastest path is often unsafe, especially because you can get bumped or hit out of bounds on the yellow rail. So sometimes you'll want to take the left or right train track. Either way, trick once you're on it, then trick before the item box with an orange mini turbo. If you're on the left path, you can go for an extra right trick when you're near the final coin. Both paths are about half a second slower than taking the yellow rail, with the left path being a bit faster than the right path. If you are just starting to learn this track, those are all the paths that you should learn. But there is one more path that is faster than any of these. It also gets an item box, and it is also consistent. It's just a lot more difficult. This one saves 0.3 seconds, which is only worth going for if you are confident that you can make it. To take this path, go on the left train track, then the yellow rail to the wall and back, then trick forward at this thick part. This will land you right on an item box, but you will not attach to the rail. Then watch for this section of flat rock. Aim to land as close as you can to it, but without actually touching it. Then ride the wall until close to the end, trick off, and do right tricks to land back on the rail. This is consistent with practice, but is very challenging at first. You have to land at just the correct spot on the rock without being too far left or too far right, otherwise you will fail it. And once you are driving on the rock, you cannot trick off too early or too late, otherwise you will not be able to attach to the next rail. So only go for this if you're very confident or you think that those 0.3 seconds will matter, because failing this will lose a lot of time. Next, we have the iconic Whistlestop Summit gap jump shortcut. This one seems simple, but it's actually a lot more precise than it looks, and probably not in the way that you expect. But first, let's talk about all your options here. You may have seen this shortcut where you charge jump onto the walls and take the grass shortcut without a mushroom. This hardly saves any time compared to not taking the shortcut, and if you get hit, you're stuck in the grass. So even though it's quite easy, I don't recommend going for this unless you are perfectly safe and you don't know how to take any of the faster paths. If you are safe, then the path you should be going for is the gap jump. This is about 0.5 seconds faster than going around, and it is difficult, but it is perfectly consistent with practice. In fact, even if you have a mushroom and you could be taking the grass shortcut, you're still better off taking the gap jump, and then you can use the mushroom to reaccelerate afterwards, which is really strong because you have no speed. This still saves 0.5 seconds, and practically speaking, this is the best mushroom spot on the track if you can take the ending shortcut without a mushroom. So here's how to do the gap jump. Start a drift near the item boxes and use soft drifting to charge an orange mini turbo as soon as you can. Release the mini turbo before touching the shadow and press R with the stick in neutral to charge a charge jump. Then drive through the coin and release a left charge jump near the end of the road. The earliest moment you are allowed to release the charge jump is at the white line. Do a left trick in the air to help you face more left, and then slowly drive out at the end. You can then get a trick on the rail to get back up to full speed. There are two difficult parts to the gap jump. First is the soft drifting to get an orange mini turbo. In this case, you need to alternate the stick between pointing up left, but make sure it's under 45 degrees, which is the best way to charge the mini turbo, and pointing fully to the right to make sure you don't turn too sharp. In case you're confused about why or how this works, I have a video about soft drifting. Okay, then the next difficult part is you want to be as close as possible to the rail when you start your charge jump, but without actually attaching to it. This gives you the longest distance to be able to charge the jump. It definitely takes a lot of practice, but once you get the orange mini turbo and the alignment, then actually jumping over the gap is completely free. The most common mistake you'll be making at first is not getting close enough to the rail. If you don't grab the coin while charging the jump, then your alignment is wrong. Another mistake is the opposite. You get too close to the rail and attach to it. If this happens, immediately trick off the rail, as riding it for any longer will put you on a terrible line. So you want to get as close as possible to the rail without touching it, which takes a lot of practice. Another mistake is failing to charge up an orange mini turbo in time. You could end up with a blue mini turbo and fail the gap jump because you don't have enough speed, or you might get the orange mini turbo too late, which gives you not enough time to charge up the charge jump. So if you are unable to charge the orange mini turbo fast enough, there are three possible solutions. First, you can aim your drift so you take the turn wider. Second, you can get better at soft drifting. And third, you can tap B a few times to give yourself more time to charge. You can combine all three of these to make it as easy as possible, or just do one of them if that's all you need. Now, if you get a blue mini turbo, you actually can still make the shortcut. It's quite precise, but if you release the charge jump at a good angle right at the white line, then you can still make it. This also gives you a greater chance to get the perfect line through where you don't even need a mushroom, just like the world record. But of course, that is very difficult and you risk falling into the gap. And another mistake that does not feel like a mistake at first is when you touch the rock, this actually counts as a failure. Touching the rock gives you more height and guarantees that you clear the gap jump, but it always turns you slightly to the right. It takes a lot longer than you might think to correct this, and you can lose up to a full second if this happens to you, so make sure you avoid the rock. Now, here are some bonus tips to help you win races on Whistlestop Summit. The feather item is extremely good on this track, and the main spot you should be using it is on the gap jump shortcut. Just drift as you use the feather and you'll take the turn beautifully. This is safer and 1.5 seconds faster than the regular gap jump, and it is 2 seconds faster than going around. Another feather spot is at the end of the track. If you're not confident with the regular rail shortcut, then you can instead ride the lower rail until the middle of the yellow part. Right trick off and feather as soon as you detach from this wall. This is about 0.4 seconds faster than the normal rail shortcut, and even a bit faster than using a mushroom through the grass. And I have one last tip for you on Whistlestop Summit. If you fall behind and get a bullet bill, then there's a really good bullet spot on the track. Just drive off the gap jump and use the bullet. This takes the gap jump shortcut for you, and if you don't pass too many players, then the bullet drops you off right before the grass shortcut. So you can use your speed items here. If you're lucky, you can even win races by doing this. Obviously, it's not the most reliable strategy, but it's already hard enough to make comebacks on this track if you try to do anything else. So often, you can specifically try to get items in a bottom spot to go for the bullet bill strategy if you think you have no hope otherwise. Honestly, after learning all the shortcuts for this track, it got way more fun to play. But then, after figuring out this new method for the ending shortcut to be perfectly consistent, this track got way more fun to play. Now I can actually plan my race without fear of randomly failing the ending shortcut and losing my front run. This track takes a ton of practice, but knowing the strategies makes it so fun. So be patient and get used to hearing Whistlestop Summit music as you practice. Your efforts will be rewarded, and I hope to see you dominate. Wario Stadium is another really tough track that I have made a full video guide on, and I also have a guide for every track's most important shortcuts. Keep improving, and I hope to see you in the next one.